Hey everybody, I hope you had a wonderful 4th of July and you stayed cool this weekend. It's been pretty warm. This is my book summary number 2, and I want to start off by talking about habits that are more important than other habits that we call keystone habits. These are the habits that remake other habits and they instigate change. Um, the next thing that I read about was small wins. And small wins, an example is people that are trying to exercise. They start exercising, then they start eating healthier, then they feel better about themselves, and they feel less stressed. They might be more productive during the day. And these are considered small wins. And small wins are what show us that bigger wins or bigger changes are possible. Um, there was the discussion of willpower was pretty important throughout these chapters. Willpower is the single most important factor to individual success, and they talked about willpower being like a muscle, something that you can exercise and create endurance with, but it does take practice to do that. So they initially are saying that you should do your more taxing or the task that's going to require you to have the most willpower, complete that in the morning so that throughout your day, as your willpower kind of fades, you are not making bad choices. An example of using willpower, and let me step back. The book also says that when you're utilizing your willpower, so if you have something that you want to change, then before you come into the situation that you want to be different, you have a plan before you ever get there. So an example being, if you're working on the floor in a hospital on the ortho neuro unit, and you have a charge nurse or a patient or a fellow nurse that you just do not get along with, and you get in arguments with this person all of the time, you come up with a plan before you ever even clock in. So you say, if this situation occurs tonight, I'm going to take 5 laps around the entire unit. An ortho nurse at research is a huge unit, so that would probably wear you out. But you can take laps, you can take deep breaths, you can take a timeout, 5-minute timeout, and or count to 10, or whatever type of plan or behavior that you want to put into place of the behavior that you had before, possibly getting defensive or angry. You would take that new behavior and you would plug it in to where that old behavior used to exist. And over time, it will just become like second nature. It just becomes a habit. You don't even think about it. You're able to walk away from the situation, and you'll see that change happen that you're desiring. The last thing that I thought was really interesting was how leaders actually seek out crisis, or may actually even instigate crisis, to get their employees to see that change is necessary. Because oftentimes when someone tells us that a change is necessary, we might not grasp really how necessary it is or how important it is. But when a crisis happens, and we see that there's a big problem, like we maybe there's a disaster and the hospital didn't have a disaster. We'll pretend like they didn't have a disaster plan in place, or there's specific portions of that plan that were just unclear. The staff would say, oh my gosh, all these terrible things happened because of this, so we've got to come up with a plan on how to change it. So that's what the wise leader does, is he or she actually instigates that change amongst their employees. I had to split the video because I forgot to mention I used an example at work instead of in the family, like was asked in the assignment. So very quickly, I would actually just use the same scenario, the one that I discussed about working with someone that you're frustrated with or you don't get along with. I would put that in a situation of maybe a brother and sister or a husband and wife that are not getting along at home. They can, or one person can, they decide that they don't like the situation that they're in, and so they want to change it. So let's say mom and dad are fighting every morning. Every morning, everybody's tired and they're just arguing about silly things. So you can actually come up with a plan. So I'm not going to talk with him or her until they've had their coffee or I've had my coffee. And if we do start to fight, then again, like I was talking about in the other scenario, take a deep breath, you go for a walk, count to 10, do some other activity that keeps you busy for that time, and then eventually it will become a habit. So the same concept, same idea, you can utilize the same things that I discussed before, and you can absolutely apply that to a family scenario. So I'm out of time completely. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope everybody has a great week.